I'm really excited for you to see this interview that I did with the owner of Spotify Streaming Promotions. And this is the company that I've currently hired to do some of my Spotify marketing and get me on playlists and whatnot. And I think you're going to find it really valuable just regarding the music industry, period, and also how you can see about applying to hire them to work on your behalf and promote your music. If your music's ready, if you've got more than one single, then you could be a possible candidate to hire these guys. They're not cheap, but they're awesome. And this interview is just freaking epic. I wanted to kind of record this little intro first because the audio it's not bad. It's just a little digital because you can see the video, and I wanted you to be able to see him and see me. But click the link below this video to hit these guys up if you're interested in hiring them up. Email Johnny. So without further ado, let's get into the interview.
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, I guess background on us, kind of give you the elevator pitch, the 10,000-foot view. I worked at Big Machine label group before. So it's Taylor Swift and Tim McGraw and Rascal Flatts and Florida Georgia Line, Thomas Rhett and stuff. So, right, there's like, when I left, there were 30 artists. But obviously the biggest of those being Taylor.
Yeah.
Big Machine decided to stop, well, at least with Taylor, and Justin Moore and Brantley Gilbert just like pulled everything off Spotify. This is 2015, but it was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I let the CEO know that, and so I kind of did a suicide by cop deal where I got fired, but they owed me 6 months' salary, so the joke was on them, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to work or interviewing at Spotify for a while, and myself and this guy named Charles Alexander were kind of up for the same gig. We kept running into each other at spots. The job they ended up offering wasn't the job that they posted, so we both decided to kind of get in this kind of independent, Spotify promotion game. So that was 2016. I guess late 15, actually mid 15. So we've been at this for 3 years or so, a little over 3 years. Started really having a direct relationship with Spotify curators. So Doug Ford, Mike the Gain, like the guys that like Doug does, kind of runs curation, also does Your Favorite Coffee House and some other stuff. Mike still does New Music Friday and then some other stuff. So we had some direct lines of communication in there. And then the whole game changed. And fortunately, we were in a place where we had some independent relationships with just user-generated content, playlists anywhere from 250,000 followers to 5,000 followers. I just started really building that out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of become the bread and butter. So really the goal is to increase the monthly listener number. I mean, obviously get ads to playlists and get spins, but really updating that user-generated or the monthly listener number and trying to trigger all those algorithmic playlists like Discover Weekly and Release Radar and those kinds of things that really give bumps to our artists. So that's been it. I bought Charles out, my founding partner, about 6 months ago.
Okay.
So it's just been, it's just me now running the show. And Johnny heads up our sales department, and then we've got 4 people pitching songs, and then just kind of some admin people. So there's there's 8 of us right now.
Okay.
So it's not just me and Johnny and like some intern in the back room like making shit. So, and we've also always made it a point never to buy our way onto lists. So there's no pay for play, because eventually that stuff's all going to go. I figure if you buy a list or if you pay your way onto a list, that list is eventually going to turn to crap.
Yeah.
And it's just ultimately not going to be of value down the road. So we don't pay to get on the list. We've never bought any lists. We certainly know what's going on in the environment with people buying lists and paying their way onto stuff. But ultimately, I don't think that's going to have value. So we've just always stayed true organic, if you will, promotion. So I'd rather.
Yeah, because we hired someone a while ago. I'll leave them nameless, but we got onto some lists. But even getting onto you buy onto the list or whatever, you could be on this massive list, but you're at the very, very bottom. So what are the chances of your song even getting played, right?
Even then, if you bought on, everybody else bought on. So is it because the music is of quality or because you bought your way on? I mean, and I would argue that it's not because, if I followed a list, it's because I like the music on that list.
Yeah.
And if you just start accepting payment for just anybody to be on that list, then it doesn't become a playlist that has quality. It just becomes a playlist of crap that people decided to buy their way onto. And some of it might be good, but I guarantee you a lot of it's not going to be good because you can't find another outlet because the music's not good enough to get out elsewhere.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And I also don't want to have any of our clients associated with a playlist that has just crap quality on that list, right? I want it to be, I mean, if we're trying to work hip hop or we're trying to work pop or we're trying to work country, I mean, I want there to be quality artists that people recognize on that list as well. So it's like you're starting to associate that artist with people that you're familiar with.
Yeah, it's almost like the new radio. It's kind of like, these
For
radio,
sure.
they don't want to lose their job and they can't play crap on the radios. People are going to
Right.
tune out. It's the exact same
Right. I mean,
thing.
it's exactly the same thing as radio. I mean, I come from the label background. So, I mean, the entire goal for us is to really look at this like radio promotion, right? I mean, it's not radio promotion. And we know that because there's only so many reporting radio stations and so many independent radio stations. And with this, it's like boundless and limitless. So, like, there's a new playlist that's got 500 listeners that we should probably be reaching out to right now, right?
Yeah.
And it could go away tomorrow, or that curator could stop updating it, and it's also with radio, those people are paid to be program directors and paid to create those lists. And
Yeah.
I got lots of playlists that I've created personally that, one, no one's following, but two, like, nobody's paying me to do that. It's just me curating stuff that I like. So
Yeah.
we know there's a difference in that. But it's a grind. I mean, we just keep finding new people and finding new lists and finding new relationships, and
Yeah.
some go away and we've got to replace them with new ones and whatever. But it's all about really just getting exposure. I mean, I look at everything as an activation funnel, right? Like, if you got to have awareness of your track so that you can start to have a fan down at the bottom, and you got to reach 1 million people to get 10,000 fans.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, what do you say to the artist that's just like doesn't even have 1,000 like followers yet, or like even like maybe 1,000 or 2 plays? What's your advice on them to get them like started? Because they're probably not even ready to hire a company yet. They probably got to do some more groundwork first, wouldn't you say? Or
Yeah, I mean, it helps. Look, I mean, our part of what we do is quality control, right? So
Yeah.
we probably get 400 submissions a month. Of those, we probably take 10 to 15. And we scout that stuff. Like, what's your social media presence? Like, what's your team? I mean, we've taken artists that have zero, absolutely zero, right? Like, this is their first release on nothing, but they've got a manager that has some clout. They've got PR set up. Like, there's a marketing team. We're part of a bigger organization. We've taken stuff that's completely DIY that has a decent social following because there's already an audience built in that we can build from.
Yeah.
We'll almost never take the brand new artist with no team, and even if the music's pretty good, I mean, unless it's just amazing. We aren't a magic bullet, right? Like, we can't come in as the one thing and just get you all over the place. It helps to have stuff happening in press releases and in blogs and in kind of the digital whatever. It helps to have things going on social media wise to drive people to stuff. And we can be a cog in that wheel, but we can't be the whole wheel, you know?
Yeah. There's I was saying to Johnny or someone the other day, it's like you got to stack your success. It's not one tour. It's not one playlist.
Right.
It's not one thing. Like, everything needs to build on top of itself to have, a foundation of an actual
For
career.
sure. I mean, we're not a one-trick pony. It's not, we can't be that silver bullet of you hire streaming promotions and all of a sudden you're on like today's top hits. That's just not ever going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be a combination of a lot of things. So, we just try to be part of a bigger team.
Yeah, I was asking because I went and met one of my buddies who's more in the EDM world, and he was showing me this thing called Hype Edit with these song gateways. And so basically giving my song away instead of an email address, get them to save the song to their profile and follow me. And so we got about 140 saves already. I blasted my list. I did some promo on them. And I'll be honest, my numbers this week went down from like maybe 280, 283,000 to 282. It went down a little bit. So I was kind of bummed out because we really did a lot of things. And there's so many things that
Right.
are involved. Like that thing is changing
There's so many
hourly.
pieces that go into that. Like, what were you driving traffic from? Like, how old's the track? Was it part of, was it part of the algorithmic playlist that, like, did something get pulled out of there that now you're not reaching as many people through Discover Weekly? Did you fall off? Did one of the tracks fall off of a released radar playlist? Like,
Yeah.
there's a million things that can go into that. Or is it just like there was a bum rush of traction beginning of the week because you were working with, this hype edit thing, and then it tailed off at the end of the week, and so they're just going off of kind of projections, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't get too concerned about like 5 to 10% changes in like monthly listeners week to
Yeah.
week. I start getting concerned when it's like 15% and more, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, we're falling off the cliff. How do we start to support that? Where's
Yeah.
that coming from? What's happening? So, because I think I don't know that it's a completely accurate, metric, but
Yeah.
it's good. It's a good barometer as to where you are.
Yeah, and it just shows you got to keep smashing it. I don't, I personally don't believe on taking the foot off the gas pedal. It's kind of like, you got to just keep hammering it from all ends and feeding it.
Yep.
What are some of the best things you've seen artists do to support what you guys are doing, and so, to kind of come behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to have a team around you. I mean, anything going on from a marketing perspective, typically a marketing team, whether it be social media oriented, or definitely having PR, as long as it's good PR and not just 50 artists to watch and it's just somebody. We've all seen those, like 50 artists to watch, and it's like there's 50 artists, you've never heard of any of them.
Yeah.
Like good PR that's really getting spots and getting write-ups and doing interviews and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It always helps to have some touring, some type of some component there where it's where you're out getting in front of other people, so that it's not just us. You as the artist are actually getting out in front of people as well. I mean, truly, it's just like us being part of a bigger thing. Like there's marketing going on, there's PR going on, there's a tour going on.
Yeah.
Anytime that you're doing featured gigs or featured bits with other artists, that's just anything that's getting you out in front of other people, right? Is really benefits us and our efforts, because we can say, hey, did you see this? They were on tour with this person, or hey, did you see this article, or hey, did you see how much traction the social media campaign got, whatever that might be.
Yeah. I think a lot of artists need to understand that, you guys are not the campaign. You guys are part of the campaign, which is like streaming promotions, tour, Facebook, social media, PR, and anything else that we can lay on there, television,
For sure.
It's part of the grand scheme. Well, dude,
Yep.
man, I appreciate the stuff that you've been dropping there. And okay, here's a question: how often do you think artists, in your opinion, should be releasing a new song? Because like if you get a crap load of followers every time you release something, people are getting that notification. I definitely see a boost now.
Oh hell yeah! My favorite thing. So I mean, this was I got way into this of figuring out like what's that rhythm, what's the pattern. So I started looking at. This is a year ago, and I started kind of following top artists on Spotify. And if you look at Drake, right? Like Drake's, if you look at his insight number, because you can compare anybody to anybody. And so basically, if you take you or basically any artist on the platform and then type in Drake, and like then your numbers go to nothing, and then you see what Drake's been doing, right? But he was in this in this rhythm like about a year ago where he would drop an EP every 3 months, right?
Wow.
Chainsmokers was pretty hot last, like I guess about a year and a half ago when I started looking at it. They were releasing a track every 21 to 27 days.
Yeah.
And I think because they're more on the production side, right? Like they're more like making beats and doing more, so they can do a lot of different types of releases, whether it be remixes or different.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was doing a remix a month because it was cheaper, and I didn't have to be as involved. I could hire.
Right. So they were doing like every it was averaging 21 to 27 days basically between releases, and I mean their monthly listener number was just like a constant climb.
Wow.
I think in the EDM world and more like anything that's going to be track driven like that, the more frequent the better. I mean, you don't want to put something out every week, but so you need some air to breathe. I mean, you can't suck up all the oxygen, but like
Yeah.
every month or every 5 to 6 weeks, there's nothing wrong with putting out a track. Now, if you're like hip hop or doing a rap, like if it's lyric driven, I mean, I think every 3 months, like doing a 3 or 4 song EP
Yeah.
and dropping that thing and like letting it have some oxygen, letting it breathe, and then like dropping something on top of it.
Yeah.
We're basically in an era now where it's the same issue that blogs had 6 months ago, or 6 years ago, rather. Like blogs used to have the issue of like, well, I posted a blog and it got a lot of traction, like it went viral, but I
Yeah.
didn't follow it up with anything. Everything was about content and like
Yeah.
sequential content,
Yeah.
and music's now in the same space, right? Like it used to be
Yeah.
sequential content was an album every 3 years, and
Yeah.
that was fine because you were working 12 to 15 songs at radio for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like your
Seriously.
seventh single or fifth single off of an album was coming 2.5 years after that first single went out.
Yeah.
Um, Now once it's out, right? Like people
Yeah.
aren't relying on the radio to discover music. They're hearing something on the radio, going to Spotify, finding it, and then listening to everything. And it doesn't matter if you release another single that's already out.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything used to be off of like the acquisition of a CD or buying a record, right? And
Yeah.
now once it's out, it's out. So I mean, I think breaking up like a traditional album format into 5 3-song EPs and releasing them over the course of a year and a half, totally fine. Like I think it's all about how prolific the artist is.
Yeah.
If you're releasing if you got a lot of tracks and that comes easy, then release a track a month or release an EP every 3 months.
Yeah.
If that's harder, get as much content together as you can, and then do remixes, do different
Yeah.
variations, and like utilize that but music now has a content problem where that wasn't the case 5-10 years ago. It's
Yeah.
you've got to have the next thing and the next thing and the next thing in the hopper ready to go.
While
Especially
still marketing it too at the same time, like getting
right while marketing the thing that's working until you find that it's not working, and like making sure you're peppering it in and like doing a little bit of an overlap to the next thing. Like you heard this and you heard me on this and you like this, but now like check this out as well. And
Well,
then
yeah, the
until
numbers
this
don't lie,
enough
right?
momentum where
Like
you can,
you can find so quickly, and you can pivot quicker than ever.
yep.
Something isn't working,
Yeah, I mean,
really quickly,
we
right?
work with a lot of stuff where we believe in it. I won't say a lot of stuff. We try to avoid this as much as possible, but it's working, or we hear it, we like it, and the artist likes it, and we feel like it's going to work, and we're 6 weeks into marketing it and just can't get any traction.
Yeah.
And if they've come up with one single, then it's like, it's not, what else you got? Like, what's the next thing? And if there's not something already there and we can't pivot to it, I mean, that's the reason that as a business, we've started out saying there's no point to work a single, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not saying give us 1,200, give us $2,000 and we'll work it for 12 weeks on one song. Because if that song starts to tank, we got to be able to pivot to the next song. So we like working projects. Like I'd rather work 6 or 7 songs.
Yeah.
Work the artist profile. Anything newer than a year, we can typically get some traction on.
It's good.
Working that way makes a lot more sense than like, all right, we are focused on this primary track, this one track, and now we're going to try to drive it through, even if it's not working. Like we're 6 weeks in, we've got 3 ads, and you've got nothing else. So it's up to us to keep grinding on it. Like that's a terrible strategy from an artist's perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, and it puts us in a bad spot.
Yeah. You got to be thinking long term. What's your 3-year goal? What's your 5-year plan? Like, and if you don't have one, I guess you don't plan on being around in 3 to 5 years, do you? So.
Yep, very true. Very true.
Well, dude, you dropped some serious value bombs. I'm going to put a link below this for people to find out more about you guys, and hit up Johnny to sign up and apply, if anything. And I always say, I love how you say, like they don't take everyone, because I always say to artists, like if a radio promoter, if the first one says yes to you, you probably shouldn't hire them. You should hire normally the one that says no to you first, because they're the real deal. And
right, yeah. I mean, it's just hard to make sure that we're getting value and not just taking anything that comes down the pike. I mean, one, for our own reputation, right? Like I want to represent what we feel like are projects that have a very good shot at success.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to be very mindful of the quality, and from a genre standpoint, we're all over the board. We've got relationships throughout just about every genre, so it's really just about good music. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm asked all the time, like, what's your favorite genre of music? And I'm like, I like good music. I don't know about you. Like, that means something to me. Like,
Yeah.
everybody likes good music. So I like good music. It doesn't have to be like of a specific genre, but we try to be really mindful of what type of project we're taking on that we feel like we can work to our relationships and get things going.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everyone. And if your guys are listening to this, and if your music isn't there, just get a better producer or get back in the studio and just keep working on it. Nothing's overnight.